All right, I still see a few people trickling in today, but if part two is anything like part one, there will be a lot of questions at the end. So we want to go ahead and get started on time to make sure everyone has enough opportunity to get their questions to Charmin and our other panelists today. So good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, good evening. It depends on where you are today. Thanks for joining us. Today is the second session of Synchro Studio Simplified. My name is Kristen Bridgers. I lead product marketing here at Cubic Transportation Systems, and I'll be moderating today. So all that means is I'll be introducing Charmin, and at the end, I'll say a few words and moderate our Q&A. Leading the webinar today, we have Charmin Chodhuri. She's the Synchro product specialist here at Cubic Trafficware. Also joining us on today's panel is Lindsay Roldan, Business Development Manager, and Aaron Schaefer, Business Development Administrator. If you have questions for Charmin during the webinar, go ahead and drop those in the Q&A for us. Lindsay and Aaron will also be monitoring the Q&A throughout the webinar and answering any questions you might have. Those that are remaining at the conclusion, we'll go ahead and answer live with Charmin. All right, enough of the formalities. Let's turn it over to Charmin to get started. Charmin.
Thank you, Kristen, for the introduction. Good afternoon, evening, and morning to everyone, depending on the location you are attending today's webinar. Welcome you all to Synchro Studio Simplified webinar part 2. My name is Charmin Chodhuri, and I will be presenting today's webinar. As you all know by this time that today's webinar is on Synchro Studio, and we are going to cover some important features within Synchro Studio. However, as I always do, considering many of you may be the Synchro user already, but maybe they're attendees who is listening about Synchro Studio for the first time, and they are planning to using it. So that's the reason I would like to go through a little overview of Synchro Studio, and then I'll jump into the main topic for today, okay? So let's go ahead and start it. What is Synchro Studio? So Synchro Studio is a robust, easy to use traffic signal analysis software. Here I mentioned traffic signal analysis software because this is what Synchro is originally made for. However, in today's date, we are supporting unsignalized intersections and roundabout as well. Synchro helps you to analyze, optimize, design, model, simulate, and animate both signalized and unsignalized intersection, right? This is what I just mentioned. Synchro also allows you to compute the trip distribution and trip assignment for TIA analysis, which is the impact analysis. Now, when I talk about Synchro, this is just a product of a whole suite of products, which we called Synchro Studio. Synchro Studio includes Synchro. This is quite obvious because that is our main flagship product. Synchro allows you to design, model, and optimize traffic signal infrastructure. We also have another product, which is kind of a companion of Synchro, which we call SimTraffic. This is a micro simulation tool, which helps you to simulate the real world vehicular and pedestrian traffic scenarios. If you purchase Synchro, you always get SimTraffic. If you purchase SimTraffic, you always get Synchro. It's like a vice versa situation. Those two products are always, you can get as a bundle. Besides these two products, we also have an add-on, which we called 3D Viewer. This is a 3D viewing tool. The 3D Viewer takes the two-dimensional model from SimTraffic and create a three-dimensional animation for you, which is a great source for presentation purposes. Besides these three products, we also have two supplemental modules. One is warrants and one is TripGen. You can purchase them a standalone product, or you can purchase them as an add-on, okay? Now, both these names are quite self-explanatory. Warrants helps you to evaluate a network of intersection according to the MUTCD guidelines for signalizations, as well as always stop control intersection. TripGen, on the other hand, helps you to calculate the expected number of trips based on the data from the IT trip generation manual. The latest TripGen supports the latest IT trip generation manual, which is their version 10. Now, the next question obviously will come in your mind that why we should use Synchro Studio. Synchro Studio has been in the industry for more than 20 years. And also it combines the deterministic modeling tools, which is Synchro, and the microscopic simulation tool, which is SimTraffic. So you are always getting a package combining the deterministic tool as well as the microscopic tool. This is a very easy to use software, highly adaptable with many different scenarios. Synchro Studio supports multiple similar scenarios in a single Synchro file, meaning if you have a same network, but if you have AM peak, PM peak, off peak, present days or future years, you can actually have all of them together in one Synchro file. And today we are actually going to talk about that in detail. Synchro supports multiple analysis methods, starting from different version of HCM, Synchro's own percentile delay methodology, intersection capacity utilization methodology, as well as SimTraffic. Synchro have a very seamless integration between product, meaning you have a very seamless integration between Synchro and SimTraffic, between Synchro and the central management system, between SimTraffic and 3D Viewer. You can also import some information from the TripGen to Synchro to do your traffic impact analysis. So those integration are very, very seamless within Synchro, okay? Okay, so the first topic today is the Bing map. So right now, when you open Synchro, I'm talking about the latest version of Synchro, which is Synchro 11. When you open it, you will see a Bing map as a default background. Whoever used the older version of Synchro, you didn't have that opportunity. There was a background image, which is like a Synchro's own default. But with Synchro 11, we have a Bing map as a background image. So when you have a Bing map as a background image, it actually increases the efficiency of coding without putting any extra effort to import a background. So you have already the background. You don't need to go with any extra steps to import a background. It also makes sure that your network is scaled properly and it follows the accurate latitude and longitude. That means you don't need to care at all about the scaling or if it's a proper lat long. Everything is ready for you. You just open it up, you draw your network, you anchor it properly, you are good to go, okay? Now, if we talk about the workflow, how it works. So when you open Synchro for the first time, you will see there is a search bar opened automatically for you. When there is a search bar open automatically for you, you just need to type in the location of your network. That means where you want to build your network. So you type in your location, you hit the search bar here, you see there is an icon, or you can hit enter from your keyboard. It will take you to the exact location depending on what you actually type in. Okay, so I would actually encourage you to be as precise as possible. It will help the system to actually bring you to the exact location or at least near to the exact location. You draw your network. Make sure after you draw at least a single intersection, you anchor the network properly, because unless you enter the network, you will see your network is in different place and your map is in different place. So you need to make them actually stickier with each other so that you can actually, when you go ahead, you can actually have a stable location where you want to draw your network, okay? So you know what will be an easier option that if I actually open up Synchro and show you how this workflow works, okay? So let me open up Synchro first, okay. Okay, so this is how when you open Synchro 11, it will look like that. As I mentioned that you will see a Bing map as a background, and then you just need to search for your location and then it will take you to the workflow. So first, let me actually type in some location where I want to actually draw my network for demo. So let's type in some location first. Maybe, yeah, it's in Sugarland. Oh, sorry, I think that is good. So either I could actually hit the search button or I could hit enter from my keyboard. Will take me to the location. I am already in the location. So just imagine that it took me to the location, and it actually took me, not imagine, it took me to the location. Now I would like to actually draw the, maybe 1, 2, 3. Okay, I would like to draw these 3 intersection in Synchro, okay? So to do that, I'll first start with drawing the link, right? So I come here, I start drawing the link. So this is the it. maybe I'll draw my first node, then I'll actually continue. But here I already draw one intersection or one node. On top of that, I will actually draw my intersection, right? Now, at this situation, if I use the pen tool, for some reason, you will see that the network is moving. It's floating, right? It's not fixed with the background map. Now, this is not very convenient if you are actually using a big network and then if it's moving, right? Now, why we even introduced this functionality? We introduced this because, like, if you actually draw an intersection in some other places mistakenly and you want to actually readjust it later on, then you can use this functionality. But if you are starting and you want to actually stick it with the background map, make sure you come here, hit the Bing button, and there is a button, there is an option or button, however you say, it actually helps you to anchor your network with a Bing map. You see there is a pop-up to anchor. So when I hit that, it will change the color from black and white to blue and green. That means right now, if I use the pan tool, my network will be completely anchored. There will be no issue. No matter where I go, my network will be exactly in the right location, okay? Now I can just go ahead and I can draw my other intersections. And then obviously you can go with the next, like lane settings, volume settings, timing settings. But this is what you need to do if you want to use the Bing map, and very straightforward, right? Now, if I, for some reason, if I feel, okay, I need a little more adjustment, but make sure that you change it, you click that button. Now you can do a readjustment again, and then you come back, you anchor it, okay? So this is what you just need to do when you are actually using the Bing map functionality. Now, I know that that question would come in your mind that, hey, we are using Synchro 10 or maybe Synchro 9, but we would like to upgrade in Synchro 11. Now, is this backward compatible, right? Because maybe you have a lot of network in Synchro 10 and you want to open it in Synchro 11, then how it will work, right? Now the thing is, what you need to make sure, or maybe if you already use the Bing map region functionality, if you are a 9 or 10 user, you should remember that there is an option. You can actually cache Bing map image as an image format and draw the network on top of that, right? If you already use that, you can remember that there was a option that you could actually select the reference point, okay? As long as you use the functionality and you selected that proper reference point, you don't need to do any extra work. You just hit Synchro 11, it will open up in the exact location. No extra work. Now, the other group use Synchro 11, Synchro 10, Bing map cache option or Bing map imaging option. No problem. You just open up your network. It will take you to some places on top of Bing map, but you just need to follow the steps I just follow right now and then anchor your network. Okay. So let's actually go through two different files and I'll just show you what I wanted to mention, what I meant actually. So I'll first open a file in which I created in Synchro 10 and had a valid reference point. That means I used that Bing map imaging functionality in 10, and I would like to open that file in Synchro 11. Okay, so I'll go ahead and open that file. So let me browse. Nope. Now I have a file with reference point. This is a Synchro 10 file, and I actually selected a reference point already. So when I hit open it in Synchro 11, it will open up in the exact same place. So I actually created that file in 10 and I just open it in Synchro 11 just fine. No extra work. If you hit Bing button, you will see that this is green and blue because I have the anchored point and that's actually anchored properly. So this is what you will get. Now, if you want to open the other file where you didn't even have any reference point, I think I have in the same folder without reference point, I hit open. This opens in the random place, right? This is not the place where I actually created my network because I didn't use that Bing map functionality in Synchro 10. So what I need to do is I just need to follow the steps like a new file. So I'll just go ahead and type in the location. where my network was, I believe that I'm tapping in the right location though. So that's yep, yes. Let me see. Okay, yeah. It actually took me very close to my original location. So this is where I want to set up my network. And when I see, okay, this is the right place, I'm happy about that, I go ahead and hit the anchor. So when I do this, I have the network properly anchored, good to go, okay? So this is all about Bing map, okay? Very straightforward, 2-3 little step and you are good to go, okay? Okay, now let's go to the next topic. Okay, so the next topic for today is Scenario Manager. So Scenario Manager combines similar multiple scenarios into a single file format, which simplifies actually the electronic file management while also reducing the development time and maintenance. I would say one of the very significant benefit of Scenario Manager within Synchro 11 is the mitigation of coding error that are very possible when you are managing multiple file and similar data, right? Like with the older version of Synchro, like you have 10 or 11, you have 10 or 9, you had just exact same network, but because of you have different volumes and different timing, you need to actually maintain multiple different files, and error with multiple files are very common, right? We saw that and we hear you, and that's why we bring the Scenario Manager. Now, Scenario Manager allows you to save multiple scenarios to a single Synchro file. That means with Scenario Manager, you can save multiple similar scenarios in single Synchro file, which allows you to reduce the number of Synchro files needed for same network, right? You can have like 5, 10, many different scenarios within same network or same file, as long as you have the same network, okay? And you can change the timing, you can change the volume. So here we mentioned that Scenario Manager actually provides you the option to change the timing plan for each scenario individually. Also, you can change the volume for each scenario individually. Now, geometry syncs all over the scenarios. That means change the geometry in one place, Synchro will automatically apply the new geometry to all the other scenarios available on that particular Synchro file, okay? Now, there are some changes in the user interface for sure, because it's called Scenario Manager. So if you want to access the functionality of Scenario Manager, you just need to make sure that you click that button and it will open up a window to do all this stuff with Scenario Manager. We also have a scenario switcher, which will allow you to quick switch between scenarios, which will be very easier for you to do the analysis of different results with different volumes and or timings. So when you have multiple scenarios and you have multiple different set of timings and volumes, Scenario Switcher will give you a very easy operation throughout the comparison, okay? I'll show you how it works. Now, when you click the Scenario Manager button, it will open up a window like that, which we called Scenario Manager window, okay? So it has certain functionality, it has certain data you should put there. So let's start with the first scenario. I have 3 different scenarios. I just like took this photo from one of my files. So you can see there are 3 different scenarios, AM peak, off peak, PM peak, right? And then under each scenarios, you have some data. You have some data you need to, like enter. You could enter it, you could keep it empty, that's up to you. But I would recommend to enter the data, because when you create the report, you can actually use the data to differentiate between reports, okay? So the first one is the scenario name. You could actually put whatever scenario name you have. Like I had some different peaks, so I just go ahead and put AM peak. Description, if you want to keep, like entering more description about that particular scenario, you go ahead and put that. Data, date, and time. This is the data, date, and time, exactly when you actually collected the data. So Synchro is worth of 1 hour of data, right? And then you can actually put that timing or the day from when the data was collected. That is recommended, right? This is more representative. If you have any alternatives, you can put those information here. Timing plan ID, AM peak, PM peak, off peak, whatever timing plan ID you have, you can put in there. Analyst, You can put your name, your company name, your collaborator's name, whatever you feel prefer, you can actually put in there. This is completely up to you. Now, here, if I come there, so there are two different buttons, right? Like one is expand, one is collapse. So after you actually include all the information in each scenario, if you want to only see the name, like I don't care like what I put, because I put it once, I know everything is right. I would like to just see the name, how many scenarios I have. You can collapse it. If you want to expand them, like, yeah, I want to see also the information. Right now, I have it in a expanded situation. So you click that button, it will automatically expand all your scenarios with the information. You can also do it per scenario. So if you click that button, it will collapse the scenario. If you scenario information, sorry, if you expand the button, it will actually expand the scenario information. These are like small little tools you can utilize. Now, some important stuff here is the delete button. If you want to delete a particular scenario, you just need to make sure that you click that button. Synchro will give you a warning, hey, do you really want to click that? Because we want to be safe that you don't accidentally do anything. Now, you might notice that this delete, between these three scenarios, we have in two scenarios delete buttons, but in this scenario, we don't have any delete button. And you might also notice there are certain differences between these two and that one. This status. So the status for AMPIC scenario here is active. So when a scenario is active, you cannot delete that scenario. Why is that? Because we don't want you to accidentally change anything unless you deactivate that scenario. So you can ask me, hey, my AMPIC is not is active, but still I want to delete that. So what you can do is you can activate other scenarios and then deactivate the AMPIC and delete that. Okay, very simple. Now, why we need this status? Because if you're already Synchro user or if you know about Synchro, obviously within one intersection, you need to put a lot of data, right? Starting from lanes, volumes, timings, phasing, simulations, so many data entry window. Now, if you want to show them for all the scenarios together, there will be a complete maze, right? And we don't want that. We want you to have a very sleek and clean data entry window so that you can actually understand the data. That's why we actually introduced this status button. So when the AMPIC status is active, that means you can see the data only from AMPIC. When the PMPIC scenario is active, you can see the data only from that PMPIC, okay? On the Synchro user interface, obviously, okay? So if you want to do some changes on some particular intersections or come from particular scenario, make sure that you activate those scenario first and do any operation or any changes, okay? Another important thing here is the save down. So this is actually, we called it the save individual scenarios, like we called it save scenario button. That means if, let's say you are actually working in a large group and you have a base file, but you want to actually separate the scenarios to each of your colleagues and you want to send them just maybe in one call, for one colleague, you want to send AMPIC, another colleague off-peak, another colleague PMPIC, and then you can combine them together. So you only want to send a particular scenario, so you can actually use that save scenario button and you actually create a Synchro 11 file with just that scenario. Okay, and send that to the appropriate personnel. Also, this button will help you to save down. That would happen, right? Like you are working in a large group and maybe you are agency people, your consultant didn't actually upgrade it to the 11 or vice versa. And maybe they're planning to do it, but right now you have a project deadline and you want to finish it. And the other group still need that Synchro 10 version because they didn't upgrade it yet. So you can actually use that save scenario button and save down to 10 and then send them back. Okay. Now this is actually important because as you all know that Synchro 10, 9, whatever the older version doesn't have the capability to actually include all these scenarios within one Synchro file. That's why you just need to make sure that you actually separate them. And then save down, send that to the appropriate group, okay? So for example, if you actually start with Synchro 10, obviously you will have a single file and you actually want to actually continue with that file, you want to create different scenarios. So for that, first I would recommend to duplicate the scenario so that you have most of the information transferred to other scenarios and then you can change the data as needed, okay? And also you can transfer between scenarios, transfer data between scenarios. That means if you want to bring some data from off-peak to PM peak, you can. If you want to bring some data from off-peak to PM peak, AM peak, you can, okay? I'll show you in a little bit how it works, but I wanted to give you some idea before I actually jump into Synchro, okay? Now, as I mentioned that there are a lot of data entry window, right? And then data related to timing and volumes are scenario properties. That means if you change in one scenario, the other scenario will not get affected. But I think I mentioned it several times that the network is shared across all the scenarios. That means if you change the data in the network, that means like the geometry of the network. That means like if you have one lane and you want to have a 2 lane, if you do that changes, it will sync up all the scenarios. That means it will be shared, okay? So that's why this is very important to know what are the data you can actually share across all scenario and what are the data which are scenario properties, okay? So to make it more easier for you to understand, we actually introduced 2 different buttons. One is single buttons and another is double or overlapped boxes to actually let you know, hey, when you have an overlap box, that means that data shared across all the scenario. Meaning if you change one data in one scenario, that will go across all your scenarios, okay? The scenario specific property on the other hand is a single box. So if you change the data in one place or in one scenario, other scenario will not get affected by that, okay? So at some point, if you get confused, just look at the icons and you will have the ideas what you need to do, okay? Now with that, let me actually open up a Synchro file and show you how it works. Okay, so this is the Synchro file. You know what? I just open up a Synchro 10 file in Synchro 11 just to show you, you know, if you are thinking about upgrading and stuff. So I just open it up and I would like to actually go to Scenario Manager first. So when I click Scenario Manager, the Scenario Manager window open, exactly the stuff is here, what I just mentioned to you. Now, there is a scenario, the first scenario is here. So it's the default one and I would like to change the scenario name. Depending on the other information, I can see this is a PM peak scenario, or I could name it whatever I want. But for now, I would just like to go with the PM peak scenarios. Now, how I know this is a PM peak scenarios? Because this data came from Synchro 10 and there is a scenario properties window in Synchro 10, if you remember. And these information were actually directly imported from that. So if you have enough information in your scenario properties, you will see everything popped up here. Okay, you don't need to do it again. If you want to change something, you can, but you will see the data's got filled out here. Okay, now this is your PM peak data. I put all the information. I can see this is somewhere from September 24, 2019, 4 p.m. data. Quite old, but it's okay. I'm just using it for demo. Now I have the PM peak. Now the purpose here is to create multiple scenarios, right? I have the same network, but I want to have some changes in volume. I want to have some changes in timing. Let's assume that I want to create for the same day, just the AM peak scenarios. Okay, how would I do that? I select these scenario. I came here on the bottom, you see there is an option called duplicate PM peak because I select that scenario. That's why it's automatically take up the name. Now for this portion, I just need to fill in the information for the new scenario I want to create, okay? So as I mentioned, I would like to create AM peak scenarios. Now for the description, maybe I'll just go ahead and type in that. You can actually type in whatever you want, but I just like for the demo purposes that this is enough. Now for the date and time, we have the calendar and clock selection. So as I told you that I would like to go with the same date, but the AM peak. So I'll just go ahead and go to 2019. I think it's somewhere September, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so September 24th. And let's assume my AM peak is 8 a.m. Okay, so I press OK. So it actually took the time and date from there. If you want to fill in some alternative, you can. Right now, I'm not doing that. I'll just put the timing plan ID. Maybe for the analyst, I'll just copy paste the Synchro analyst to be more faster. And that is it. So I duplicate it. Now I duplicate the AM peak scenario exactly same as the PM peak. So right now, if I actually activate my AM peak and I hit active, there will be no change, right? Because I just duplicate PM peak to AM peak. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and change some data just to show you that you can have completely different data. So maybe I'll target this intersection because I think this is good. Let's target one intersection and change some data. So first I'll start with the volume. I'll change the volume to be maybe 100. Okay, let's target just north and southbound for convenience, and then we can actually go back. Okay, now maybe for this one, let's maybe 40, and then let's do 1,000. Let's do 150. Okay. This is the volume I changed. Let's change some timing as well. So as I target northbound and southbound, I'll do the same. So let's do some turn type changes. So in the PM peak, everything was protected, the left turners, but for AM peak, for northbound and southbound, I changed it to permitted. Let's change some phasing settings as well. Maybe I'll change the recall mode from max to min. I'll do some optimization just to have some different data here. I did that. And yeah, that is it. Now let's check. So right now I'm in AM peak, right? And I just changed the data for the northbound and southbound. If you look at it, now if I go back, activate the PM peak, you see I have completely different data in my northbound and southbound, right? That means you can have completely different volumes. And also to double check, you see the boxes are single, right? That means it's a scenario specific property. Even if you hover your mouse, it will show you, okay? Now I also changed some timing data, right? So if I'm in, let me go back to AM peak and go to timing settings, right? So I can see that my AM peak northbound and southbound left are permitted. I have cycle length of 55, and I would like to see what was in my PM peak, right? Now, there are two different ways. You could either come to Scenario Manager, and when you open the Scenario Manager, it will automatically close your timing settings window. You need to activate there, you need to come back. Not very convenient, right? Especially when you are actually comparing two different scenarios. To make it easier, we introduce the scenario switcher. See on this, like where I'm hovering the mouse, there is, now I have AM peak and PM peak. So when the AM peak is written there, that means right now my AM peak scenarios is active. To double check, see, AM peak scenario is active, right? Now, if I go back to timing settings, if I change AM peak to PM peak, it will automatically activate my PM peak, and I'll show the data. I'll see the data from PM peak. So when I hit PM peak, you see the data got changed, right? I have protected left turns, 3 and 7 for northbound and southbound. I have completely different cycle length, right? So I can compare it way easily rather than I open the Scenario Manager every time. So once I am done with the data entry or information entry in Scenario Manager, I can just like use the scenario switcher to switch between scenarios, which will give me a lot more easier access of the data. So now if I go back to AM peak, come to phasing settings. So there are like 2 and 6 minimum recall. If I go back to PM peak, I have max recall, and also I have some extra phases because I have the protected turns here, okay? Another thing I wanted to show you, because all those data I showed until this point are scenario specific, but there are data which are shared across scenarios. That means if you change anything here, for example, if I want to change my eastbound left from 2 lane to 1 lane, in my PM peak, if I hit the AM peak, it will also incorporate that data, okay? So if anything is shared across, always remember it will actually go over all your scenarios, okay? Okay, now I also mentioned that you can actually transfer data in between scenarios, right? Now to transfer data between scenarios, what you need to do is you need to come here. So you know what? Let me actually create a third scenario, and then I would like to transfer some data from here, some data from there, okay? So let me create a third scenario, which maybe will be a duplicate of AM peak. That is fine. Maybe I'll create a midday. Okay. Maybe I'll change the date and time like earlier. Okay, same date. Maybe that's the PM. Let's say my midday is just like 1 PM and I hit duplicate. So right now I'm duplicating it from AM peak, right? So if I activate midday, I should see the exact same data from AM peak, right? Midday, you see I activate midday, exact same data. PM peak has different data. Now what I want is, I want to transfer the volume data from PM peak to midday, just to show you the process, okay? So to do that, I need to select the scenario from where I want to transfer data. As I mentioned that I want to transfer the data from PM peak, I select that. And I hit the second tab here, copy data from PM peak. So I select the right one, and then the next option is copy data to. So I want to copy data to, I could choose both, okay? You could choose as many as you want, but right now for the demo purpose, I choose midday because I want to actually only transfer the data from PM peak to midday. Now it will ask me what kind of data you want to transfer. As I mentioned earlier, I want to transfer the volume data, so I select volume. I could select like timing, network setting as well, but just for demo purpose, let's go with volume, hit copy. Okay. Now, if I activate the midday, then I should see the exact same volume as PM peak. So let me hit it and you see, I have all the changes, right? AM peak is now different. Okay, makes sense? I think it is, right? Now, this is all about the Synchro one. SymTraffic is also supported by Scenario Manager. So if you have already all put in there, so if you hit SymTraffic, yeah, I do some changes, that is okay. Press yes. So now it will open up SymTraffic, okay, for you. Now you see whatever scenario you open here, AM peak, SymTraffic will default to that scenario, but you can actually change it from midday, AM peak to midday. It will reset it again. You can change it to PM peak, however you want to. And you can also have different calibration parameter in different scenarios as well. So those are scenario specific data as well. So if you want to change them, you can, okay? Another change is also here in optimization. So if you hit cycle length optimization, and if you hit create scenario for each cycle length, you click that and you will see that this option will create all the iteration inside your scenario manager. I will talk more about it when I will talk about the optimization in the next part. So we can actually talk about it later. Okay, but there is an extra option in in optimization for scenario manager. Also, if you come here, there are like the merge one. So you can also have different merging options. So if you select a file and if you want to merge, you select all the option, and if you hit the scenario, you see if you have two different 11 files, you just need to make sure from which data or from which scenario you want to merge in the data, okay? So these extra options are actually included around Scenario Manager to support. Okay. Okay, I think that was it. I try to cover almost everything with Scenario Manager, but if there is any question, I'll be happy to answer. And let's come to the next topic here for today. So this is what I just covered. I'll skip it. Is the methodologies, right? So I think in one of my previous slide, I mentioned that Synchro has different methodologies, right? So Synchro is actually a deterministic tool and SymTraffic is a simulation tool. I already mentioned that. Now under Synchro, there are different methodologies and all those methods are macroscopic model, right? So we have the percentile delay method, 2000 and intersection capacity utilization. Each of these methodologies are macroscopic, which use the equation to determine the measure of effectiveness, such as delays, level of service, queue length, and etc. Okay. Now, for the first one is the percentile delay method. So this is the Synchro's own proprietary percentile delay method. In this method, the traffic arrives will vary according to the Poisson distribution. Vehicle delays are actually calculated based on the 90th, 70th, 50th, 30th, and 10th percentile scenarios, and the reported values or reported outputs will be the weighted average. The HCM6, 2010, and 2000 are actually based on the highway capacity manual's different versions. The intersection capacity, the ICU, intersection capacity utilization methods are mainly used for the measuring the intersection capacity, like if you want to use that, because those will not help you to actually for any operational signal timing design. This is more like a capacity estimation. Now, Synchro's companion model, which is SimTraffic, this is a microscopic model, right? And this is also one of the methodology you can find within Synchro Studio, where the cars or each vehicles will be tracked individually, and the operational every vehicles and for each slice of a second, right? And then you can create the report out of that as well. So I wanted to discuss about that because I would really recommend to make an educated choice on which method is best suit for you, because each methodology have their own advantages and disadvantages. So depending on what you are looking for, you should choose the perfect methodology works for you. Okay. Now, I think the last topic for today is the reporting. So till now, I mentioned like, hey, we have so many different methodologies. You can do the analysis out of that, right? Now, when you do all the analysis, what you need to have is the report, right? Report will show you how the delay, how the level of service, or all the other information actually works within that methodology or within your data, within your scenarios, right? Now, in the right-hand side, I include some reporting that Synchro can actually create out of your analysis. I would also like to show you how you can create that, okay? So maybe I'll actually go with the same file, shouldn't be a problem. So right now, just imagine that I do all the data entry, I do all the analysis, and right now I want to create different reports from my analysis. So to create reports, either you can come under reports, or you can click file and hit create reports, doesn't matter. So I prefer to click here for some reason. So I clicked here. And then you see there are different options like intersection, HCM 2000, 2010, 6th edition, TIA. You could actually hit any of the button. It will actually exactly take you to the window, the same window. So if I hit HCM 6th edition, it will take me to the create report window. It will just select the HCM 6th edition for me. If I select the intersection, it will still take me to the same create report window, but it will select the intersection. Okay, that's the only difference. But even accidentally you select the intersection, but you want to create some report out of 6th edition. From Synchro's percentile methodology, what you see under the timing settings. Under the timing settings, you might always notice that you are getting some outputs from the timing settings like delay, level of service, and queue length. Now for this one, you need to hit the intersection to have those output. Now, when you click that, Synchro automatically selects some data for you. If you want to add more data, you can select. Starting from it actually have the node numbers, what information it's showing you, what is the intersection name, and then you have the delays, level of service, and all the other values which is related to the percentile delay method. Now, if I sixth analysis signalization, there are summary, detail, pedestrian, bicycle. If I want to hit a detailed report, I hit preview. it will create a ACM6 analysis, and by default, as the Synchro header and footer is selected, it will show you actually from which methodology the report is coming. Okay, so when you share it with someone, they will completely understand, okay, this is from ACM6, or this is from Synchro's methodology, or this is from ACM 2010. Okay, now if I go back, you can actually create a summary, detail, whatever you want. Also, you can create the always stop, two-way stop, roundabouts from 6th edition. You can also create 2010. So if I hit the summary of 2010, you see it shows me, okay, this is the ACM 2010 signalized intersection summary, and then you can have the information here. Now, you can also choose the scope. That means if you want to create a report for one intersection only, if you select that, you click that drop down, you will see the available intersection. You can choose. You can hit the entire intersection as well, okay? So besides that, we have 3 different others. There are more also, but I would like to actually show you 3 more. I know like we are kind of running the time with the Q&A, but I want to show you 2 different stuff, and then I'll jump into the Q&A. So the MOEs is the first one. So if you want to create any report out of MOEs, if you hit summary, it will show you what kind of results you are going to get, like what kind of level of detail you want, like arterial, lane group, app. If you hit detail, it will actually have you all the information for MOEs. If I hit preview, you see I have each intersection, I have each approach, and then I have the MOE out of those intersections. If I go back, there are another option called scenario comparison, because within Scenario Manager, as we have many different scenarios, we actually include the option that you can create or have different criteria or different reporting out of scenarios. So I can select as much as scenario I want, or I can deselect it no matter what. So if I select all of them, I hit preview, it will create the scenario comparison report for me. Okay, if you want that, you can create that as well. Like the date and time, the control delay, total delay, stops, speed, and all those. Also, obviously there are other more, but another important stuff, you can create an arterial report. So if you want to if you're interested in arterial level of service and delays, you can hit arterial level of service. And you need to select the available arterials. Right now I have only one, so I just select that. I hit preview. It creates an arterial report for me. Okay, so including the level of service, the travel time, the signal delay, the speed, and all those good stuff. Okay, so if you have multiple arterials, you can choose them as well. So right now I have one, so I just choose it. You can save the information as a PDF, also as a text file. So depending on what you choose, you can actually select them. Okay. Okay, so I think that was it about